thread throughout all of this, and we'll come back to it again, I'm sure, but is like to go where the racing is. Just go wherever it's happening near you, whether it's a karting track or a real track, just get there.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Visit deechworks.com for all your fuel system needs. I'm your host, Con John Turk, and on this episode, we're going to talk about how to get into racing at any budget. Maybe not just get into racing, but expand your own racing program, get more seat time, that kind of thing. My guest, well, he's been on YouTube and had a video that I discovered. And so that's why I have him on. A Ferrari driver, Miata racer. I know that's pretty far apart. Maybe we'll talk about that. Someone who's really into hustling to make his dreams come true. Someone who also has a supportive wife like myself. Gabe Orlowitz, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Super happy to be here, Con. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I found your YouTube page. I don't know. I probably had some sim racing thing in the search bar, and then I was scrolling for something else, and the algorithm said, you got to watch this video. And it was your video. It's bad. I don't remember the name. I think it is Racing at Any Budget.
Yes. How to get into car racing on any budget from 1K to 50K a year. I have it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered that on my own.
So before we get too deep, you guys should search for that. But what's your YouTube channel? Because I think it's worth a watch for most people.
Yes. Gabe Orlowitz Racing. So GABE space ORLOWITZ Racing. I should be the only one, as far as I know. You can find me on YouTube.
Yeah, you're the only one on YouTube that I found anyway, because I had to look you back up and then follow you and do all that jazz. So, yep. Before we get too deep into the subject, let's get your racing background.
Sure. So, I have loved loud, fast, exotic cars since I was 5. I think when I first sat in a Lamborghini Diablo when we would take family trips to Florida. So cars have always been in my blood. But I also was always sort of an outsider. I didn't grow up around cars. I didn't have a family that worked cars, anybody that raced cars. And it was just, my story was I love cars, but I consumed a lot of car content, read magazines, but never really got into the circle. And I remember graduating college in 2013, and I would say this to people. I would say, all I want to do is race cars. I didn't have a clear career path. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I remember saying that to like my parents and my friends. All I want to do is race cars. I just had an absolute fascination and obsession with cars, and at this time, like racing. But my sort of the immediate response was like, yeah, that's cool, but like what are you talking about? You got to get a job. And because like motorsports was not in my family, it was sort of a foreign thing. And so I began to make excuses, very quickly, like it's too expensive, I'm too old, and that was like 10 years earlier. It's too dangerous. And the problem was that these excuses became my story, and I hung on to them for like an entire decade. And so I was doing a ton of watching racing. Like I went to F1 races to be a spectator and even volunteer. But really in the background of my head, I was saying like, I really want to race, but I just can't. It's too expensive. Excuse after excuse. Until finally, you mentioned supportive wives. I think my wife sort of just kind of got tired of me talking about this all the time and obsessing over it, and said, look, if you really want to do this, like we got to make a decision and you got to take a crack at it. And long story short, we kind of made the collective decision that, look, I've been saying I wanted to do this. Why am I not doing it? Like these excuses are going to be here no matter what. So let's put them aside. Let's make a plan and let's do it. So that was kind of how it all began. And then, we can get into the specifics, but essentially I ended up getting my racing license. I went to racing school, got my SCCA competition license, found a race car, and now I've completed 2 years racing in the SSM class of Spec Miata. But it was really a long road of dreaming, and finally a decisive moment that propelled me into this world. And I'm thankful that I did it. I'm learning a ton. I just, wish I had started sooner.
We all wish we started sooner. I think, I don't know this for a fact. I think that you're fiscally conscious about how you spend your money. At least when I watched, I brought home a Ferrari today, and, you're not one to like overextend yourself. My first video for you was the budget video, and I was like, yes, he's a kindred spirit, right? Like, I get it. I think I like this person, right? But some people, I think we do our racing journey when we actually need to do it. You are making excuses, but at the same time, maybe everything wasn't ready. You wouldn't have the same experience that you got today, right? So I want to caution people about like overextending themselves, especially financially, to go racing, because like you said, the excuse is it's expensive, and nobody should tell you otherwise. Expensive is relative, right? To everybody. There's a certain level of expense, and I think we'll end up getting there, right? But you can start kind of cheap, and then you can get as expensive as you want it to be in racing. So,
yeah, that's a good point. We'll get into the specifics. I think people have an idea of what it could look like when you maybe don't have a lot of money, you have this desire, and you can still do practical things. And hopefully, like, if I were watching this 10 years ago, maybe I could have done a few things differently without overextending myself. So I think that's a good clarification.
Yeah, and I want to caveat some things about, you can be more efficient with your funds in all aspects of life. You can, but when you go down the racing path, I encourage people to be methodical. Talk to people, do a ton of research. I actually believe you should wait another 30 to 60 days and then do that research again, because prices change up and down. So when you start budgeting for things, think price changes, right? Competition comes in, things happen. So don't jump in with 2 feet without really doing that extensive research. At least that's what I've done, especially when I was doing research for this podcast. I was like, okay, we had talked a little bit. I started researching right away, and I was like, that was not that expensive a year ago. Or,
right,
wow, I didn't realize that was that cheap, especially when you're talking the car market. Like, the used market right now is a little different than COVID times, right? So,
right. Yeah. I mean, I think racing forces you to, hopefully, if you're not already budget conscious, I think you'll learn pretty quickly that it's fairly easy to burn a hole in your wallet if you're not careful. But if you're careful, you can do it right. And so I think that's a good point to emphasize.
Well, and I turn it into a lifestyle, right? So people at work are always, hey, do you want to go grab lunch? Absolutely not. I pack my lunch every day. And they're like, wow, you pack every day. That takes such discipline. No, it's a lifestyle. Like,
because you're thinking about what you can spend at the track, right? Or something to that effect.
Yeah. If I got down into the nitty gritty of like what I budget or what we budget as a household per meal per person, people would be like, you can actually eat. I'm fat too. So I actually eat really well for not very much money, like less than most people spend at Starbucks for a coffee. So,
Yep. Priorities.
Yeah, my priority is to go racing and to do it without debt. So,
yep.
That it's a lifestyle to do that. I'm telling you. But, do we want to get into this now? Do you have any caveats you want to warn people about?
No, I think we can get into it. Let's
okay.
do it.
Well, I actually have another caveat. This is what happens when I scroll through my notes. I believe in your video you talked about it was compounding, right? We start with 1,000, we go to 5,000, we do 20 and 50. And then when you're doing 50, you can do all the things that you were doing before or not, depending on what you're spending, right? That's how you did it.
Correct. And if I didn't make it explicit, I think that was implied.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. So I think you said it one time at one point in the video, and I just wanted to make sure that's how we were going to discuss this. It's fine either way, but I just want people to also understand when you're starting out that we want to incorporate long-term thinking. It's usually right when you're getting out of college or trade school or wherever you are in life. You have to think, right? So I always believe you should have a potential exit strategy because I was 5 years old when I wanted to race cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I knew, right? I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to race cars and I wanted to be the president. I only got one of those things down so far. So this is what I want, right? And but what if I didn't like it? What if I got motion sick? I really went through this and I was like, what happens if I have some sort of, I don't know, inner ear problem where I can't actually tolerate being in the race car? So have an exit strategy, in my opinion. And maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, generally not overextending yourself and being smart financially is just sound advice, especially in the racing world. And I made this video, we'll get into the specifics, but for that person who has that burning itch, who has, just been talking about it for years, but has excuses, basically myself 3, 5, 10 years ago, and to say look, put the excuses aside. Here's what you can do. Here's how you can do it. I think you bring up a good point though, of if you're on the fence, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try it, but maybe start with renting versus buying, or doing a track day versus a full blown, race season, things like that.
For sure. And I think that gets us pointed in the right direction. So do you want to kick us off with what you can do for $1,000 or so?
Yeah. And I'll just say, I guess you asked caveats. Maybe I'll just, one more thing. I chose different budgeting tiers purely based on my experience, looking backward, the things that I've done, knowing that the racing landscape is very vast and I don't know the full landscape. I'm in my third year navigating this. You probably know a lot more than I do, Con, about series and budgets and things. So I made this from the things that I had done and that I could speak to. So, yeah, I mean, $1,000 a year, which roughs out to about $83 a month. This is, we're talking if you're really unsure if you want to do it, or maybe you're just getting out of college or whatever, this is pretty, I think, an attainable amount of money for most folks if they're willing to, if they have the desire. And the biggest thing I think you can do for that budget, which, let's face it, it's a low budget for racing, but you can still get into things. I think arrive and drive karting. I don't think that's something to snuff at. I think there's most areas have leagues, have karting tracks that you can go to once or twice a month. And the big thing here is that you're going to meet people who are passionate about racing, who maybe they've been doing it for a few years. I still go, and now I'm in my third year of actual racing. So I have something to offer that person who's just getting started, and, mentorship in that form. So I think that's a great entry level way. It's super low stakes, but still competitive racing, where you're going to see people who are just starting, but also people who have been doing it a while and who just love it for the fun of it. So arrive and drive karting, I think, is a great place to start if you have that, under $100 a month budget to spend.
Yeah. So one of the big things is making sure that there's a track for you somewhere close, whether it's close is relative, but it doesn't matter whether we're talking going to the racetrack in a full-blown car or your karting league. It's less of an option if you have to drive 2 hours, right? But if there's one close, and you only have $1,000, that's absolutely the best way to go, right? If it's even if you have a bigger budget, and we'll talk later on about bigger budgets, if you are really that close to a karting track that has a league, there's no reason not to be in that league. You're what, you said you're racing for 3 years and you went back to karting, right?
Yeah. But also, I'm trying to get a championship. I came in second the first year, and then third, and so I'm still fighting for that. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's low stakes, and it's a good group of racers who are just getting into it. So there's really no downside.
So you're shooting for a karting championship, is what you're.
Yeah, and we're talking. You may know K1 Speed, which there's certainly a lot of other karting series and locations that I would say many would argue have more, whether it's realistic or just better karting experiences. But the K1 now offers, for the top 3 finishers in every state, you go to California to their brand new outdoor K1 circuit. It's like a 1.1 mile outdoor karting circuit. And I went last year to participate in the national championship. It was hard. It was,
right.
I'm not an outdoor karter. It was, I was up against some pretty stiff competition, but it's a nice reward for going, 12 months out of the season. And, as it's nice to be able to fight for something.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to get that trip to nationals on $1,000 budget, but it gets you a chance to get there. So
you're right. And so that's where it gets into people can pick apart these budgets, and the point is, if you have this kind of money, like $80-$90 a month, here's one thing you can do versus just sitting on your couch and wishing, thinking about racing. It's not saying you're going to be racing, a GT3 car or like in the Ferrari Challenge yet, but it's certainly a starting point, and it's better to do this now versus for the next 10 years just wishing, talking about racing, and then finally waiting till you have some disposable income. So get started now, start meeting people, so that when you have more of this income, more of this cash to spend on racing, you'll be in a better spot. That's my big push here.
Relationships in the racing community are huge.
So big. And I mean, I could talk about that too. Like, I don't know if we want to go on a side tangent, but just like I'm more of an introverted guy. I was always averse to networking. I'm a product designer and software by trade, and I've worked in startups, and just the thought of networking just always felt sort of contrived. And I didn't feel like I was ever good at it until I got into the world of racing and in cars. And I realized the networking just happens so naturally because of the passion that everyone has. And it's only because of the people that I've met that I've been able to achieve what I've achieved. It's kind of crazy looking back on how I even bought my car and who I met and where I was when I met them. It was all because I went to these racing events and things, met people who then introduced me to other people who then helped me out. So if you're concerned about networking, just know that I don't know, I found that the community, the racing community is just makes it easy, in my opinion, to network. And I think that's because of the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the future, you could be sharing parts, tools, the track. They could be like, hey, I remember that guy, and then help boost you up, right? They're always, everybody at the track is always about helping the other guy. It's really a great environment. And so when you're helping other people that have the same passion as you, it does nothing but push you further as well. So it's a great community. So networking in it really is, there's multitude of benefits, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And in fact, jumping a bit ahead here, but the way I found my Miata that I now race was because I went to a K1 Speed, just during a lunch break. I met two guys in the Porsche Club of America. I didn't know they were. It was just the three of us racing. And then after, we were like, "Oh, that was fun! Like, you overtook me here. Like, we were having a good time duking it out on track." And I told them what I was trying to do, which I think is important. You should have a goal in your own head so that you can tell people what that is when it's relevant. In my case, I wanted to get into racing. So, tell them about your goals. And then they gave me an email of a guy who ended up becoming my mentor, who helped me find my Miata, and who now I race with in my class. And this was all because I went to K1 that one day, just during a lunch break. It doesn't mean it's going to happen every time you go to a karting track, you're going to meet your mentor, but you have to put yourself in that position, and Arrive and Drive Karting is a great way to start out on a low budget.
For sure. Was there anything else you had under that $1,000 umbrella?
So I did. There's two things. One that I haven't done, and maybe you can tell me about this, but I know of it. So SCCA puts on what's called Track Night in America. There may be other series equivalents, but essentially, as I understand it, you just bring your car, your street car, to the track, and it gives a lower stakes. I don't think it's probably like a HPDE even, but a way to get out on track and to meet people, and for a relatively low cost. So I think if you have a track nearby, look out for these low barrier to entry ways to get your own streetcar onto the track.
Yeah, so the SCCA has Track Night in America. A lot of the local tracks have other types of avenues, one-day events or afternoon events or things like that. There's always an event going on, and the barrier to entry can be anywhere from $100 to $800, right? So, but if you have a close track, that's why it's important, even with the karting thing, right? You could join the league, but what if they have big events for Halloween, right? And you're going to do an enduro instead of just the series, like, and just get a bunch of track time, but it's only $35 or $50. Okay, maybe it's worth it, right?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that, the thread throughout all of this, and we'll come back to it again, I'm sure, but is like to go where the racing is. Just go wherever it's happening near you, whether it's a karting track or a real track, just get there. And the other piece of advice in the $1,000 budget range, we have Arrive and Drive Karting, Track Night in America or similar. If you don't have a track nearby, find the closest one. However, there's got to be one, and hopefully you don't have to get on a plane, but book one trip to a regional race, whether it's SCCA, NASA, or these other series. I think we can get into what other series are local to you guys, but go to a race, have a goal in mind, and be prepared to talk about it. I know it kind of, like, to me, the thought of approaching a bunch of people in a new environment does not sound appealing, but I think you'll agree, Con, it's like, if someone comes up to you in the paddock, young or old, whatever they look like, wherever they're coming from, and they ask you about your car, you're probably going to be willing to talk to them and engage in conversation, assuming you're not trying to get out on track in 20 minutes and fix something on your car. But like, people have been super approachable in the paddock, and I've met people that way. I've helped people come up to me. And I think it's just like, if you don't have a track nearby, find your closest race, regional race, and just go there and see what it's like.
Yeah. And to be honest, if you want to race, you should be in the local paddock at the local track for whatever group is there, because every group has a different vibe, a different feeling. Every race class has its own little like vibe and click to it. And I call them families. They're track families to me, right? I couldn't live without my Honda Challenge guys. But, if you go, this last weekend, there was a college track cross, which is essentially they portion off a small part of the track. They set up the autocross timing system on it, and they let these college kids from various college clubs shoot it out. And basically it's like an autocross, but on a small section of track. And so, I had parents. I'm obviously not in college anymore. I'm way too old for that business. But, parents were asking me like, well, he really wants to do this and I want to support him. What should we do? And my biggest thing for them is it doesn't matter what they're driving today. That can change, right? Cars are expendable part of this sport, but the relationships that we develop and build, that's what you want. None of them, well, one of them was driving a Honda. Okay, come race with us if you want. If you don't, if you come hang out with us and you're like, I'm not really feeling that, there's other Honda supported classes, or go walk around. Maybe the Miata guys seem really cool. Sell your Honda and go drive a Miata. Maybe the BMW guys are cool. Go hang out with them. Maybe the Corvette guys are cool. You're probably too young for that, but go hang out with them, It's find your family, find the place that you're comfortable. And, it'll take some time, but be relaxed, because nobody's out there that's going to chase you away. They're all going to welcome you in. Just find the best fit for yourself. So,
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I'm still finding that. I'm 2 years into my class, but already thinking about the turnout for my particular class isn't super high. So like what other classes have more cars that consistently show up? I think, the only other thing that came to mind that I didn't talk about in the video for the $1,000 is, but I know people do this, is they volunteer. They're flaggers. That's a huge thing. Like, that's a great way. I think I've never done it, but to get involved in the sport. I volunteered once at a 2013 Formula One race in Austin. It was my first race, but I was simply a wayfinder. I just helped spectators find their seats. So I wasn't even part of the action. So I don't know if I'd say do that, but in regional racing, they're always looking for volunteers to help out around the paddock on track. So I think that's probably another great way to get involved.
I know myself and multiple guests of mine started as flaggers or working grid or working in tech. And
there you go.
Depending on your NASA region, not to poo-poo anybody else, but this is what my experience is, that you work a couple of weekends and you got a free entry to do your HPDE. So I was going to get into that in the next budget series, right? Because 1,000 doesn't get you too far. So let's talk about the 5,000, and I'll sort of lead off that volunteer program. And Track Night in America apparently had this too, and I don't know if they still do, but it's worth researching. It's worth asking the organization, especially if you have a limited budget and you don't have a full-blown race budget, which we get into later. How can I help and subsidize what I want to do? They're, like you said, they're always looking for that. And I started my journey by working 2 weekends and doing an HPDE for my third weekend. Now, HPDE weekends, my entry fee was paid for, but the weekend's not free, right? You need fuel, years wear and tear on the car, tires, brakes, spare parts, tools, all the stuff you're going to accumulate over time. You got to feed yourself. There's consumables for you. There's consumables for the car, right? So just because the entry fee is free doesn't mean the weekend's free. So that's why I sort of put it in the $5,000 category, because then it's sustainable. You work a couple weekends. If you're in between 2 regions for NASA, you could probably get away with doing this probably 4 or 5 times a year, where you actually drive and work, because there'll be that many events, and then you'll get 4 or 5 events. And I know my events aren't cheap, so.
No, I'm curious, because part of the challenge, at least for me, was the accessibility of the information. Being an outsider, I didn't know like creative ways to get into racing. I assume like I need the money and then I can go do it. How did you find out that was like a way in, that you could volunteer a few days and then get your HPDE day? Do you remember like where you gathered that information?
Yeah, I was in a college car club, Madison Motorsports, and we were some of the first volunteers for NASA Virginia at the time, now NASA Mid-Atlantic. It's really not publicized as well as it could be, because I think they would get inundated with like not the wrong, sort of fly by night people. So I don't think they advertise it. That's why it's important to go to your local track, meet people, and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. Can I volunteer and help? And they'll probably go, yeah, you can volunteer, you can earn time, maybe you can earn a paycheck. I know some flaggers are paid, they're literally professional flaggers, or in lieu of getting paid, you can get track time eventually. Those types of things occur. So it's just networking. You had to network, and we just did it, 25 years ago. So that's how I found out.
Okay. Yeah, I think my biggest mistake was the excuses and just assuming that it was out of reach. Not even knowing that, there's local races I could just go and volunteer. So I think hopefully this episode it can reach the right people to say, like, look, you don't have to assume you need $1 million budget. There are ways in. So so 5,000. I had, my bucket here, let's say 5,000 a year, about $416 a month, roughly on average. And I think if you're really looking to get into racing, and that's your budget, sim racing becomes your sweet spot. I think you can do everything you could do with the 1K budget and also have this solid sim rig. Probably not super top tier, but a couple of years ago, I wouldn't say I went all in, but I knew that I was throwing myself into this world. And so I bought equipment for, let's just say, around 8,000, like everything from PC to like, I literally had nothing. But my approach was like, I don't want to have to make upgrades. Whether that's right for you, you decide. But I think for around 5,000, you can find a really good setup, and just start developing your skills. And I think when you pair Arrive and Drive karting, a lot of the guys at Arrive and Drive karting, you'll find people who do sim racing, and you may find one or two drivers who are really quick, who are in another league or series, or know another group of guys that do sim racing. And so like you can pair that. And my advice is just to find people who are quick in sim racing and then just race with them. I think it's a no-brainer in that kind of budget. It's like more than just Arrive and Drive karting, but not quite enough to do a full-blown race season. And I think your HPD ideas are great, but if you want like a lot of repetition, I feel like sim racing is the way to go.
Yeah.
there.
So let's just go ahead and devolve right now. And I'm currently piecing together my sim rig. So I want to know what 4 or 5 or whatever, what do you consider a top tier rig?
Well, I would say like I went, there were a few items that I went pretty high end, and then others that were sort of middle of the road. So I think like you need really good pedals. Everyone says that, right? Like load cell, just like a good strong pedal that is going to be obviously reliable. And I haven't even adjusted mine much, but I have the Hoising Belt Team Redline pedals, and they've been great. Pedal and wheelbase I think are important. I think like I have just a curved monitor. I don't have triples. I don't have VR. So I think like having the triple screen, more immersive experience is probably more on the high end, although you don't need to be spending $10K to get triple screens. I guess what I consider is like when you look at the landscape of sim products, like the ones that are going to give you the most realistic feedback. And I don't even mean motion. I don't think I think that's a separate discussion that I don't think is necessary. And I've heard that ultimately like it helps with immersion, but not necessarily with learning.
It made me sick.
Okay.
I didn't have the G forces, but I had the motion, and I was like, oh, I feel a little, I wasn't sick, but I knew, something wasn't right. So.
Okay. Yeah. I think, look, I don't know a ton about all the, I don't stay up to date on the latest sim products. I was sort of like, let me just figure out what I need, buy it, and just be done and just use it. and now I'm just in the using phase. But I think like when you look at products, any site, Fanatec or what is my cockpit is next level racing. I think you're going to find a range of like lower tier, mid tier, and high tier. And what by like super high quality, I mean like the highest tier stuff. I think you got to talk to people, figure out what they have. That's what I did. Find a trusted source or two, figure out what they have, and just buy it. Because I think you can make yourself crazy, like going down rabbit holes researching sim products. And I was just it just got to the point where I was like, I just need to get it and be done with it.
For me, I surf the web, and I was like, okay, this is the kit combo I'm gonna get, right? And then I was like, let me just check Facebook Marketplace and see how bad, like what's the depreciation on this. Man, it's face melting depreciation on sim gear. And so I was like, well, with the budget I had for like a really nice Fanatec setup, I undercut all of that and got a really nice Sim Magic setup with load cells and hydro pedals and all shakers, everything, right? So it's got haptics, it's got, a load cell and dampened, like hydraulic dampened brake pedal. It's really nice setup for actually less than I was going to buy the Fanatec setup. So,
wow,
yeah. And then the triples that I'm looking to get, we're recording a couple days before Micro Center's Black Friday release. So I'm hoping they're a little bit cheaper, but I'm going to do triple 27s for way cheaper than I could get a 49-inch. So.
Okay, man, I need that deal. Cause I got a 49-inch curved, and I mean, I no complaints with it, but I think the triples would be better. Do your pedals give you did you say they give you like brake feedback?
Yep.
Like haptic feedback?
So the haptics were cheap.
Ooh.
The haptics. So this pedal base that I'm on, I have Sim Magic P1000 FRS. So it's the hydraulic setup with the load cell in the brake pedal. But the haptics from Sim Magic are $16, and the integration is built into the pedal base already. You just plug it in. So super cheap.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I think I'm certainly not the sim equipment expert. I don't know if you've had another episode on that. But the point is, like, if you're between, you got some cash here, it's more than just like the bare minimum to throw at karting, but you don't have enough to go buy a car or get your racing license yet. And that's just like maybe a few years down the line. Again, back to this theme of like, rather than sitting on your couch not doing anything, consider a sim rig. You can get really good experience and pair it with find fast drivers, and that way, once you do get a car, you're going to be that much better.
Yeah, I can't wait to get mine finished. I'm itching. I'm hoping the sales are the way I want it, so I can have Thanksgiving. I'm just going to sit in the sim all day. I'm not going to do anything but sim race. Is what my plan is. But I have a couple more for this $5,000 range.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to figure out where it comes in for you, but I saw Lemons race seats between $600 and $1,000 per event.
Yes. So I had a few notes, things that I left out of my video, but that would apply. Endurance racing was one of them, and under endurance racing, Lemons, of course. I know of Lemons. I haven't done it. Plenty of guys do, but absolutely. Like, have you done it? And can you talk about like the barriers to entry there?
Well, I haven't done it, but the Garage Heroes and training team always want me to come do it. It's my understanding that you basically don't have to have any experience to go out with a team. Now, I'm sure they're going to want to put you in the seat on the practice day, and they're going to want you to get you used to the car and stuff like that, and then really coach you, right? But if you're starting to go from karting league and then you get into this, I think it's a ton of seat time every event. And if you got $5,000, you're probably gonna get 5-ish events. Let's say 4 events. So you have plenty of travel money and, food money, right? You're going to get 4 events in a year. You're going to figure some stuff out. Now you're going to have to borrow gear. That's part of the problem with this. But,
right. Yep.
You're going to get that gear eventually. I'm sure with 5,000, you could get yourself a helmet at least, and your Stand 21 Hans knockoff will do you. So,
right. I think that's great advice. I think a little bit of decision making of like, for the next year, would you rather, be racing every night, but in your basement or in wherever, in your bedroom, or do you want real on track experience, which is exciting, but maybe a few times a year. I think there's pros and cons to both. I think that comes down to a personal decision, but it lemons shouldn't be overlooked. I think that's a great addition. I would have included that in the video had I been thinking about it.
What if I told you could get into dirt oval quarter midgets and race every other week for the season? You could buy the car. You can't buy your gear. You could buy the car and race. I missed the gear thing. It probably needs. There's no $10,000 range, but I found quarter midgets for like $2,000 running.
Wow.
Now they're the old chassis. They're the old engine style. You're not going to be the front running winner, but it's going to get you out there. And I was like, man, these are dirt cheap. Who knew? And dirt oval entry fees are like nothing, like $50.
I mean, look, I think there needs to be a database. I have this idea of like in the back of my head, like someone can go in and say like, here's my situation, here's my budget, here's my goals, my interests. And like, it just guides you to the opportunities that exist in the racing world. I don't know much about oval racing. I'm more of a road racing guy where my interests and experience have lied, but like I would do that. Like most of us want to race anything we can get our hands on. So that's
He's
a great
trademarking that right now, by the way, guys. Don't try to steal it. What's the other thing? Oh, there it is. You can start doing motorcycle track days.
Whoa.
If that's the huckleberry you like, right? If you want to get on track, it's so cheap to buy a old used SV650 motorcycle, some leathers and a helmet and gloves and boots, and go out there. They were under $1,000 for these race bikes.
Do you race bikes?
No, I had roommates that did, and I know a couple of guys that do it. The track fees are really cheap. They end up in there. There's another group of folks that are like, oh, you want to come out? I might have leathers that fit you. I'm old. I gained weight. Try these. Like they'll literally give you stuff. So
I think that for me, at least, it might be a little bit of a harder sell to my wife. But luckily we were just talking about it. For whatever reason, I don't have that much interest for 2 wheels. I love 4 wheels. But if you do love 2 wheels, then I think the budgeting stuff is in your favor, right? Just less material to work with.
Oh yeah, less to protect you. So, and you don't.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about racing, but there's accoutrements you need to go full car racing. So,
yes.
And we haven't gotten into needing any of that, right? We've rented, we've driven our car to a karting track. We built a sim rig. Amazon, UPS, FedEx delivers all that stuff to your house, right? Like we haven't got into the accoutrements of it. But I guess that would be in the next one. Is it in the next one?
Yep. I mean, So I mean, 20,000 a year. So, and I just say what it is on average per month, just so people have an idea. Obviously, racing seasons, you have spikes, right? Of like when you're spending your money, but about 1,600 a month on average. And, you can give or take a few. Don't get too hung up on the exact
Right.
number. But, in my experience, look, having raced a couple seasons in what I would say is a budget Miata class. So it's showroom stock Miata SSM, which really means like it's mostly the NA Miatas 1.6 liters. With minimal modifications, just suspension, tires, motors, everything else is pretty much stock. And we're out on track with the SM guys, but they're quicker. But so this is based on my experience racing in that series for a couple of years. But I think with this rough budget, 20,000 a year, you can absolutely start and have a lot of fun in a real car, in a real series, on real tracks with organizations. I'm in SCCA. It sounds like you're in NASA. There's other ones, right? Like, I don't even want to talk about them because I don't know a whole lot. But like, Grid Life is another one, and then you have these endurance racing series like WRL or AER
Porsche Club, BMW
like,
Club,
yeah,
Audi Club.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
everybody's got a club.
Everyone's got a club. But point is, find your club, and maybe that's another discussion. But assuming you know what club you want to get into, this budget allows that. And my experience, I didn't have a race car at the time, but I knew through my research I discovered SCCA. Like, I'm in the New England region, so that was like where I wanted to be in terms of my racing, and I knew I needed a comp license. So knowing I didn't have a car the first year, rather than I didn't spend that much money, but 20 grand in that first year. But I wasn't racing and I didn't have a race car. So I put some of that to racing school. It was just my path to getting my competition license. If you already have a race car, I think like it's better to use that to go to events to work your way into a competition license. But assuming you have the license, this budget allows you to do that. You could probably do it for less. I even talked to a guy at Lime Rock. There was this guy, I forget what he was racing, but he told me like his yearly, he's like, I stick to $3,000 a year, and if anything goes over, I don't come to the track. So I don't know how many races he would go to.
2?
But yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, this at least lets you to get there and have a lot of fun and learn a lot of things. So what did you think when you heard that 20,000? Does that roughly align with your experience?
Yeah, so that's sort of it's in my wheelhouse for the year, right? So when I go racing, I know I'm spending about $1,500 to $2,000 an event, depending on what I break, right? So it's my average. I live 30 minutes from one track and I live 4 hours from the other track that we primarily race, right?
Okay.
So I have to do the average because I use no gas getting, to one track, and it's smaller track, and I don't use as much gas in the car. But it's harder on tires than the other place. So I have a spreadsheet. I'm a nerd. It's about $1,500 is my weekend cost average per event per year. And then I give myself another $500 per event in case something breaks. If nothing breaks, that $500 keeps rolling into I haven't broke anything yet thing, which is good because this year the car gets to go to the body shop this winter. So I didn't break anything all year, but it has to go to the body shop. So I did.
I wish I could say the same.
Well, I mean, I broke sensors. My car hates sensors, but they're relatively cheap, like $35 for a sensor on my car. Okay, that there's a lot left over from my budget, right? In assuming you don't have a car already, this budget is you're ready. You can buy a car. I saw Miatas, which are readily pretty cheap, between $7,000 and $15,000. You don't have to buy the $60,000 Miata, folks. Okay. I saw Lemon's cars for sale, pre-built. Like, I don't know if I really would trust other people's cages anymore, especially Lemon's people, but between like 3,000 and 6,000. In that same price range for the SCCA, the B spec cars, I saw plenty of B spec cars at like a $5,000 price tag. That's cheap. Yep. And they run cheap. Like, I had somebody on when podcast first started to talk about their experience, and because he's a arrive and drive B spec racer, and it's stupid cheap. It's the same price that I pay for my much faster car to maintain it myself. So
there you go. Yeah.
So you could actually just buy a dedicated track car, assuming maybe you've spent a year volunteering or some time volunteering. Maybe you found your family. You can either buy a car to build and go to the track with that car during an HPDE track night in America, all of those things, or you just buy a car. You're not going to buy a Honda Challenge car is going to cost you $10,000 to $15,000 minimum.
Okay, and that's your car. That's what you.
Yeah, you can't build my car for less than that.
Sure. Maybe that's the next tier.
Oh yeah. The year I built my car, I was in the next tier. Like to build it, race it was the next tier.
Right. But I mean, yeah, I think there's the whole question of like what to buy. I think that's a personal decision of like, do you want to buy a car knowing that that's the car that you're going to have and race? Like how much experience do you want to get testing or like learning about different cars before you buy one? I think that's a personal path. And in my case, like I said, I didn't have a race car yet, but I wanted to get the licensing out of the way because I knew I was going to get into it. And yeah, you can talk down about racing school, like it doesn't give you that much seat time and whatnot, and that's true. But at the end of the day, it got me what I needed, and it got me in the door. Had I had a race car already, I would have used that to go to events to get my license. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, there's the SCCA offers it. I don't know if other clubs do or even what other regions, but it's something to take note of. It's called the Club Racing Experience. It's, in the SCCA weekend, there's different groups, open wheel, closed wheel, like about 7 groups, and you're out there on track with your group. One of the groups is a group of students and instructors called CRE, Club Racing Experience. And you can, assuming you have a car, you either buy or rent, you can show up and use the Club Racing Experience as your way to get your novice permit and your license. And you're effectively participating fully in the race weekend, but without the stakes of like actually being out there racing, like in a real race group. You're just out there with other students and instructors. And had I known about this or had a race car and I was trying to get my license, I would have absolutely done this because like you get the full experience of a race weekend, but with lower pressure in an environment that's safe to learn, and you're around other instructors who are there to teach you. So I don't know, does NASA have something similar to that?
So we do the NASA, and I know Grid Life doesn't have in-car instructors anymore, I don't think, but NASA, most of the manufacturer clubs, those type of things, we do the high performance driving education, and it's a ladder system. So we go from 1 to 2 to 3, and then some of them have a 4. Our 4 is the instructor group. When you're in 3, in my region, you're considered advanced and you're ready to go to comp school. And then the comp school weekend is what seems like what you described with your club racing experience.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is wheel to wheel.
Mm-hmm.
The instructors it sounds like you're nodding your head. The instructors will come up beside you. And in fact, I actually helped out because the guy I mentioned, my mentor who helped me find my race car, the guy I met through K1, he's an instructor, and like he invited me to sort of to be another body or car out on track
Right.
with the students. And it's all about just getting next to them and like getting them comfortable of what it's like going around a turn at speed, a foot away from another car, and how to pass and be passed. And I think it's just like if your local regions have those student oriented programs, I would take advantage of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming at it from two different perspectives, where you went to a race school with a race car, got your license, and then I went a different route. I had a street car for a long time and did high performance driving education until I knew what class I wanted to race, what the rules were, and then I built a car. I didn't buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
I built the car to spec. So, and then I had to build another one 2 years later, but that's a whole other story. But
yeah, no, it's true. I mean, there's so many ways to get into it, and people have different backgrounds, and it's I'm glad you highlighted that. Like we come from, like, we always, you and I both always had the interest. Most people do, but I wasn't around performance driving at all. I wish I was, and that sounds like I like your path in that. Like, I think you can't replace
Nope.
seat time. Seat time is so important, and so like just to have. Like for example, this year I my main competitor in my class, it was his first year racing wheel to wheel, but he's been doing HPDs and like instructing for, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 years, and has gone like tons of cars. And he took first place, and like clearly, that seat time was worth its weight in gold. But all the more reason to, like, if you're on the sidelines, figure out how to get that seat time with the stuff that we're talking about with these budgets. If I was, I wish I was watching this my younger self, because I think I would have maybe done it slightly differently.
Yeah, and or taken advantage of something,
right.
Gotten involved, met some people. The world turns into your oyster. You just have to take the initiative, and like you said, you can either spend the year sitting on the couch, or you can spend the year trying to improve yourself and get yourself ready to race in something, right? Like race the sim in those leagues, race in an endurance karting league, race in a kart, do all of that, and then take your car to the track. Just depends on your budget, but maximize it. Because one of the big things that we always talk about on this podcast, it comes up almost every episode, is seat time is king. You have to get it. If you don't get it, you're not getting faster. So,
yep. Yeah, totally. I think that's spot on.
So let's talk $50,000.
Big money. Certainly out of my range now. This doesn't come from personal experience, but I sort of extrapolate what I'm spending now, and okay, if I had this type of budget, and I look at other people who sort of, I think, based on what I see, are probably, in that range, and then what they're doing.
Yeah. So I have a couple of crazy oddball stuff that I found.
Okay.
And it really depends on where you live. If you don't live in certain areas, you're not going to be able to apply it as well. But I found for 50 grand, I can buy a Legends car that has both the circle track setup and the road race setup, and literally run the oval and any of the road race stuff local to me for $50,000. That's a lot of seat time.
I didn't know that existed.
But if you're not near a circle track, and you're not near a circle track that has a Legends class, and it's usually in the South. I don't think there's a lot of Legends up in New England, but maybe I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah. No, I haven't seen many, maybe one or two, but you got them where you are.
Yeah, I think this is about it. Well, I bet into Pennsylvania there because there's a big circle track following in Pennsylvania. But if you're in North Carolina and you're complaining about seat time, this is the route you want to go down because they run a Legends at every course every weekend somewhere. They're racing Legends. So the cars aren't too expensive. They're now Hayabusa powered, I think, so they're stupid fast, and the motors are expensive, but you can get into one, buy the suspension swap pieces, and then go to every event for that budget, for sure.
Wow. What kind of work to get it set up between road and oval? Is it a lot of
control?
Changing?
It's right side suspension swap. So control arms, stuff like that.
Okay. Same tires?
Yeah, same tires. Well, it depends. If you're on the dirt, I bet there's a different one. But if you're doing the asphalt circle and the road course, you can just use the same tires. You may want a non-staggered setup on the road course, but I would just use my takeoffs, my dirt oval or my asphalt oval takeoffs.
Gotcha.
What did you have?
I mean, so for the 50,000, and again, give or take, I basically had everything that you're doing at the 20,000. You're in you're in your racing, regional racing, car racing, whatever it is, but you can invest more. And the way I think about it is like you can put more money into the things that are going to help you get faster. So, for example, hiring a coach. My main competitor, I don't know if he was in this range, but I don't think quite this high, but he had a coach at every race. I ended up hiring a coach for the past few, but like that should be a no-brainer if that's what you're into, or like, I don't know, different people may feel differently. I'm just getting into racing. So like that was worth its weight in gold. Just car setup itself. I mean, I bought my car pretty cheap, like definitely sub 10K. And you know, after racing it for a couple of years, like it was, you're going to laugh at the wheel horsepower, but like, I think my series or SSM is capped, I think at 107, and mine came in at like 96. So, yes, SSM, short for super slow Miata. So like, you know, with more this, with this 50K budget or around there, like you should have no problem maybe like getting a rebuilt motor, or just making sure the car is competitive. I mean, at the end of the day, like I know in Spec Miata, like you can get in, but if you want to be a front runner, you got to make sure that your car is in tip top shape. And I think, you know, with this budget, you should have no problem doing that. I think so. Like putting money in the things that are going to allow you to focus primarily on just driving and being quick. So coaching, having a really good car, having a crew, one or two people, or a race company like in my region. There's a couple that come to mind. I'm not affiliated at all. I just know of them, like Flat Out Motorsports or MBM, and they have a fleet of rental cars. They also have a fleet of mechanics that come to the track. And if I wanted to, I could pay them to look after my car at the race weekend, do the inspection before the races, during, after, everything. Sort of, I'm paying for their labor and then any additional parts. So like with this budget, you should be able to do that pretty easily and not worry about it. So that like if things break, depending on if even if you want to, if you like working on your car, I mean, maybe you're just not, you want to focus on going over data rather than fixing your transmission during the race. You can afford that. So it was really like everything in the 20K range, but making sure that you're that you can't blame your car, and really you're the last thing that you can look at in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm paying for everything else. The car is good. You know, it's me that's not fast. And then there's I think like it opens the door just for more seat time. So for example, this year I was invited to a couple. I only did one, a Champ Car endurance race. That was awesome. Flew out to pit race, drove another guy's Miata with a three of us. But like you can do more of those things, maybe enter, I have my region here, but like I could also like go to Watkins Glen and race there, or Summit Point, or like VIR. I could bring my car to these races that are not so close. Just do more racing. That was like the main difference that I laid out in the 20 to 50K bump.
Yeah, I found a bunch of, you could buy this car for under 30 and then do that $20,000 season kind of thing. Because really that's my sweet spot, right? Spending $2,000 an event or so, budgeting for that. So it really was like, yeah, I can do this, right? I could put that together. I don't do 10 events. I do 7-ish events, but it depends. Yeah. I mean, at the $50,000 price range, you can usually get your hands on a really competitive car or make yours competitive, like you said. They have really expensive spec Miatas out there. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah. I found a first gen Radical for $25,000. I was like, man, that's awful tempting, right? Like they're not slow. Now it's not updated. You would have to pay to update it, but you could do that. If this was a sustainable budget year in and year out, you could update it and then be in the Radical Cup series, right? There's Thunder Roadsters out there. There's MX5 Cup cars are coming for sale. They're much faster than your super slow Miata. So you could get into an MX5 Cup car and still do a regular race year. But it depends on your journey, right? So when you get to this level, and this is where I sort of try to talk about it earlier, that long-term thinking, like how are you going to take this journey, or what can you do now, and how is your journey going to evolve? Think about that and think about where you want to go. I would assume most people who are like, I want to race, they're not starting with $50K budget, right? They're going to evolve to that budget. So you're right. I think you can at $50K in your 20K season, you can now have the best of the best, right? You can have all the seat time you want. You can now have like a pay for a shop, a specialized shop in your car, in your make and model, to go over your car, especially if they're race oriented, because maybe they have engineer data where they can go, hey, this is actually the car's problem. Let's fix it. And you'll have that budget, right? It never hurts to get somebody else's perspective. I need to get coaching. Like I've taken Ross Bentley's class on how to coach yourself. I've all this stuff, but it's all in the application. And I can't convince myself to always apply it the way I need to. And maybe a coach can. Maybe I need to find the right coach that can help me apply it. But the first step is to get that coach. And it's invaluable, right? They're going to see things in your driving and in your data that you missed. Or maybe they just explain it better so that you apply it. I know I've got a big hole in this corner. Okay. It's easy to see that on the squiggly lines, but how do I get myself to do it? They've done this a lot. It's their job to get you to do it. So maybe they do it better. And I don't know what they cost, but if they make you faster in the end, when you drive home, it's worth it,
Absolutely. At least to get a taste of it. And ideally you learn things, they pick up on themes of your driving. Like a theme that my coach picked up on is just like, I'm not using enough weight transfer to get the car rotated, and I'm like generally braking too early. It's just like a classic mistake, something but like that was something that I could after 3 race weekends with him, like I was doing in this corner at this track, this corner in this track, this corner this track. And now I know, like, generally that's something that should be high on my radar, of like making sure that, like, yeah, I know that conceptually, but like you said, the application of it is a totally different story. So making sure that I'm thinking about that. But yeah, I mean, racing or coaching coaching, I think you can dabble in getting that in the 20, but like certainly in the $50,000 range.
I think in 50,000, you can definitely always have fresh tires. You in the club racing level, I say this, but there's definitely cars that are more expensive and more consumable heavy. But in Honda Challenge, in Super Spec Miata, that level of budget is pretty top tier, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, I don't like. I'd be curious to survey the paddock and see what people are spending on average, and maybe we find out it's slightly less than that. I really don't know, but just based on what I'm spending, what I think, knowing the cost of things generally. And look, if you need a race shop to rebuild your car or rebuild your motor 1 year, you're not going to necessarily need that every year.
Right.
So, so I think that it can always free up budget for the following year. There was one other thing that, like, an option at this level, maybe for the unique case of like someone who is starting to get into it but has quite a bit of cash to throw at it. Renting out different race cars. If you have the money and you're not afraid, if you don't know what you want to race yet, a lot of these race shops will have a fleet of cars, and you can basically hire them to do everything. You just show up with your gear that weekend. They have the car, they maintain it, you drive it, and you can dabble in different cars or rent a car for the full season. Renting is not cheap. Like, I don't know I haven't talked to shops, but I've talked to guys who do it, and whenever they throw out a number, I'm like, oh, renting sounds cool. Like, and then I hear the number, I'm like, oh man, that's kind of crazy. Like, it's like half one weekend. Like, you're looking at, I think, $3,000 to $6,000 to give a very wide range. So not for the $20,000, certainly less than that, but for this budget, it's an option to give you options of, which direction you want to go.
The B spec was about a little over $3,000. We did a in-depth breakdown. Okay. It was a little over $3,000 for a B spec car rental, right? But
which you can buy for $5,000. Yeah, you can buy
for $5,000, but hey, you don't have to do anything, right? And it
right.
A set of tires is in with that. So like, if you don't have time or the desire to work on your car, it's really not a bad option. And if you find the right group and you don't mind the low horsepower, low consumable classes like B spec, I think you can get away with doing a pretty decent year in the $20,000 range, to be honest. Kerry, I talked to Kerry Rouse about it, and he said he did it, and it included a practice day. So it wasn't just the weekend. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not just a Saturday, Sunday. So he got to practice with the car. He got to really work on certain things as a driver for that price. So that's pretty decent.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you could make it work, I mean, maybe you got a really busy year and you still want to figure out what that next step should be, and you're only going to make a couple races, then maybe renting is the right way. If you're in that sub $20,000 budget.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's people who are yelling at their phone, radio, whatever they're listening to us on. Oh, you could do this, you could do that.
Totally. Yeah. In my comments on the video, there's a handful of those.
Yeah. So even you came up with other ones, right? You came up with new ones since the video.
Yep. Right.
This isn't exhaustive, people. It's just two people having a conversation, sort of stream of thought, right? We had some outlines and we were talking, right? But I think the biggest thing to take away from all of this is it almost doesn't matter what you can afford. What'd you say $1,000 budget was? Like $80-something a month?
Yep, $83 a month.
The $50,000 one is $4,166 a month. Okay.
Yep.
Those are two completely different universes. I remember when having $83 of expendable income was a big deal to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like now not to have 4,000, but plenty of expendable income, right? Much more than $83. And just if it's your dream, if it's your passion, go do it. Don't, like you said, don't make excuses. Don't keep resting on those old excuses. Get out there and start exploring the environment. And maybe you'll find something you like in a budget that's not too far away or a budget that you have already.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't be like me and wait 10 years to say racing was too expensive. You're too old, as I would get older. Just do it. And I think, yeah, like the main takeaway for me looking back at my short, few year journey, but just like what's helped me was to go where the racing is. Like we've been talking about, attend wherever there's racing happening around you, find it, talk to people, and go and share what you're trying to do. I think you mentioned like knowing your journey. The way I think about it is like, if you can have a goal, know what that is, even if it's just to figure out if racing is right for you. Like that's a totally valid goal. Or figure out what series you want to, whatever it is, go where the racing is, talk to people. And like, if the community is half as good as what I've seen, I think you're going to find your path.
Awesome. Gabe, I really appreciate you coming on. Can we get your YouTube channel again? So
yes. Yeah. Gabe Orlowitz Racing.
Yeah, go check it out. Subscribe, do the little bell icon, thumbs up his videos.
Yes.
I enjoy them, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know I hit you up and stalked you.
I was thrilled to come on. I'd be happy to do it again. I hope people found value. But and now I'm a fan of your podcast. I didn't know about it, so it's kind of a win-win. I got your subscription, and you got my me as an audience member.
Yeah, awesome, man. I appreciate the trade.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.